Grandpa Tickles a lion. Timothy, the lion cub, was discovered by Grandfather on a hunting expedition in the Terai jungle near Dera. Grandfather was no shikari, but as he knew the forest of the Shivalik Hills better than most people, he was persuaded to accompany the party. It consisted of several very important persons from Delhi to advise on the terrain and the direction the beaters should take once a lion had been spotted. The sportsmen never saw a lion, nor did they shoot anything else, though they saw a number of deer, peacocks, and wild boars. They were giving up all hope of finding a lion, and were beginning to shoot at jackals, when Grandfather, strolling down the forest path at some distance from the rest of the party, discovered a little lion about 18 inches long, hiding among the roots of a banyan tree. Grandfather picked him up and brought him home. At first, the lion cub, who was named Timothy by Grandfather, was brought up entirely on milk, given to him in a feeding bottle by our cook Mahmood. Timothy was provided with 2 companions, Toto, the monkey, who was bold enough to pull the young lion by the tail and then climb up the curtains if Timothy lost his temper, and a small mongrel puppy found on the road by Grandfather. At first, Timothy appeared to be quite afraid of the puppy and darted back with a spring if it came too near. He would make absurd dashes at it with his large forepaws and then retreat to a ridiculously safe distance. Finally, he allowed the puppy to crawl on his back and rest there. One of Timothy's favourite amusements was to stalk anyone who would play with him, and so when I came to live with Grandfather, I became one of the lion's favourites. With a crafty look in his glittering eyes and his body crouching, he would creep closer and closer to me, suddenly making a dash for my feet, rolling over on his back and kicking with delight, and pretending to bite my ankles. When I took him out for walks, people on the road would give us a wide berth. When he pulled hard on his chain, I had difficulty in keeping up with him. His favourite place in the house was the drawing room, and he would make himself comfortable on the long sofa, snarling at anybody who tried to get him off. Timothy had clean habits and would scrub his face with his paws, exactly like a cat. He slept at night in the cook's quarters and was always delighted at being let out by him in the morning. When Timothy was about 50 months old, a change came over him. He grew steadily less friendly. When out for a walk with me, he would try to steal away to stalk a rat or someone's pet Pekingese. Sometimes at night we would hear frenzied cackling from the poultry house, and in the morning there would be feathers lying all over the veranda. Timothy had to be chained up more often, and finally, when he began to stalk Mahmood about the house with what looked like villainous intent, Grandfather decided it was time to transfer him to a zoo in Lucknow, and it was done shortly after. About 6 months later, when my grandparents were visiting relatives in Lucknow, Grandfather took the opportunity of calling at the zoo to see how Timothy was getting on. Arriving at the zoo, Grandfather made straight for the particular cage in which Timothy had been confined. The lion was there, crouched in a corner, full grown and with a magnificent brown coat. "Hello, Timothy," said Grandfather, and he put his arms through the bars of the cage. The lion approached the bars and allowed Grandfather to put both hands around his head. Grandfather stroked the lion's forehead and tickled his ears, and whenever he growled, smacked him across the mouth, which was his old way of keeping him quiet. He licked Grandfather's hands and only sprang away when a leopard in the next cage snarled at him. Grandfather shooed the leopard away, and the lion returned to lick his hands, but every now and then the leopard would rush at the bars and he would slink back to his corner. A number of people had gathered to watch the reunion when a keeper pushed his way through the crowd and asked Grandfather what he was doing. "I'm talking to Timothy," said Grandfather. "Weren't you here when I gave him to the zoo 6 months ago?" "I haven't been here very long," said the surprised keeper. "Please continue your conversation, but I have never been able to touch him myself. He is always bad-tempered." "Why don't you put him somewhere else?" suggested Grandfather. "That leopard keeps frightening him. I'll go and see the superintendent about it." He had been stroking and slopping Timothy for about 5 minutes when he found another keeper observing him with some alarm. Grandfather recognized him as the keeper who had been there when Timothy had first come to the zoo. "You remember me," said Grandfather. "Now, why don't you transfer Timothy to another cage, away from this stupid leopard?" "But, sir," stammered the keeper, "it is not your lion." I know," said Grandfather. "I realize he is no longer mine, but you might at least take a suggestion or two from me." "I remember your lion very well," said the keeper. "But he died 2 months ago." "Died!" exclaimed Grandfather. "Yes, sir, of pneumonia. This lion was trapped in the hills only last month, and he is very dangerous." Grandfather could think of nothing to say. The lion was still licking his arm with increasing relish. Grandfather took what seemed to him an age to withdraw his hand from the cage. With his face near the lion's, he mumbled, "Good night, Timothy," and giving the keeper a scornful look, walked out of the zoo.